dancer with a Cambridge-based company in Fusion Physical Theatre. And during the pandemic, some of our company members experienced physical symptoms of chest pains and dizziness, even to the point that the emergency services needed to be called out during the lockdowns. So the paramedics carried out tests on the heart and on blood pressure, but these checks all came back clear. So the paramedics' next question was, do you have any stress? Well, given the circumstances, I'm sure you'll agree it was probably a resounding yes. So, Fusion Physical Theatre began learning about cognitive behavioural therapy to better understand why stress can cause such physical reactions. And this led us to coming across the 3 systems model of emotional regulation. This is a concept by Dr. Paul Gilbert, who's Professor of Clinical Psychology at Derby University and is also the founder of a Compassionate Mind Foundation. The 3 systems model focuses on threat, drive, and soothe, 3 states that control a large portion of our lives. Each one is controlled by a specific hormone, and these hormones influence our minds and our bodies through lots of internal chemical reactions. And the impact it has on our bodies is a response to the decision that our body has chosen to make. The 3 systems work together, but if one becomes more dominant than the others, then the balance between them goes out of whack. So, from a dance perspective, this idea of internal chemical reactions transforming our emotions into physical reactions is a really great premise for movement material, particularly as dance has the capacity to convey both physical and emotional states. So in 2022, Fusion Physical Theatre created the dance production Soothe. We've been fortunate enough to receive input from scientists from the University of Cambridge, Dr. Liliana Fruck from the Department of Chemical Engineering and Professor David Bailin from the Psychology Department. Their input has been really invaluable into the formation of this project. But what's been really interesting is their response to a project that combines dance and science. In a recent Q&A session following on from a performance of Soothe, Professor Bailin was asked why was he interested in being involved in a dance and science project. His response was, we can't necessarily compare how we feel, but we can share how we feel. Perhaps one reason why a dance show can be the best way to talk about these molecules is because these molecules make us move inside and out. So for the purposes of storytelling, Soothe is divided into 3 sections. Each one focuses on one of the specific states so that its effects can be viewed in more detail. You're going to see a short excerpt of each section this evening, and the first one we're going to see is threat. So the threat system is our body's natural survival mechanism. When we're exposed to danger or a stressful environment, the brain triggers the release of adrenaline, and this activates the rapid fight, flight, and freeze response. The hormone cortisol is also released, and this suppresses any non-essential bodily functions. This also includes the prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making part of the brain, and this is so we're able to react quicker on instinct. The clip you've just seen represents the fight aspect of threat, where we might experience anger and exhibit aggressive behaviour in order to defend ourselves. Once the threat has passed, our hormone levels and bodily functions resume normality. But if we will remain in a prolonged state of fear or stress, the effects of adrenaline and cortisol also remain in the body. This can cause feelings of overwhelm because the logical thinking part of our brain has been suppressed, and can also lead to a number of health problems. Initially minor ones, for example, headaches, muscle tension, problems with sleeping, and then potentially some more major ones, anxiety, depression, heart disease, high blood pressure. The threat response also requires a lot of energy to maintain. So this can lead to exhaustion, and if this continues long term, there is a danger of it leading to burnout. So the second system we're going to look at now is drive. So the drive system is controlled by the powerful neurotransmitter dopamine. This might sound familiar to many people. It's often mistakenly referred to as the happiness hormone, but actually it's the motivational molecule. It energizes us so that we are wanting to hunt and seek and find things because there's the reinforcement that it will be a pleasurable experience once we do. However, if our dopamine levels are too high, this can cause an imbalance in the work-reward system. Too much desire for a particular reward can lead to obsession, and this can cause a behaviour pattern that spirals as we constantly search for the payoff but never actually receive the full satisfaction. Adverse effects can also occur if dopamine levels are too low as well. We lose motivation and energy when there's little or no reward for our efforts, and this results in disappointment and frustration, which then can re-trigger the stress system and then cause anxiety and depression again. So the threat and drive systems are very important functions in our lives, but if there is an imbalance of the amounts of threat and drive in our lives, then that can cause a very chaotic time in our lives and also have some problems with our health. The final part of the dance show is the soothe section, and this offers something a little bit different. special thanks to Dr. Liliana Fruck for live footage of synapses in that video we've just seen. So the soothe system is controlled by the hormone oxytocin. It's sometimes referred to as the love hormone because it provides feelings of peace, happiness and contentment. Its production is generated through physical touch, through calming environments and through social connection with other people. Receiving affection from others and demonstrating it from other people also helps to generate this production of it. It's very important for establishing biological connection, so it's vital for bonding and building relationships with other people. One example of this is a baby being comforted by its parents. Oxytocin can help us to recover from the drive and threat systems by reducing our levels of anxiety and stress and restoring a sense of calm and well-being in our lives. In the clip you've just seen, the movements of the dancers slow down because a more complex molecule needs to form. Oxytocin is much bigger and more complicated than either dopamine or adrenaline. So this means that it relies on consistent exposure over a prolonged period of time to environments that produce its hormones so that we actually experience its benefits. In the clip we just saw, there was also establishing of eye contact and gentle touch with the dancers, and this was to help revive the dancers from previously stressed states in the piece. As that section goes on, the connections continue to build between the dancers so that they're able to form bonds of trust and establish a healthy relationship. So why did we choose to create a dance piece focusing on threat, drive and soothe? Simply because we were wanting to know, how do you get more oxytocin in your life? All three of those systems are incredibly important for our functioning and survival. But there is an argument that probably a lot of people have more threat and drive in their lives than oxytocin. In 2022, the Mental Health Foundation reported that 30% of adults experience deterioration in their sleep quality because of the cost of living crisis. And in 2021, 53% of 17 to 23-year-olds experienced a decline in mental health due to COVID. Now, because we're still experiencing the fallout from both COVID and the cost of living crisis, it's a very sure certainty that many people's mental health still continues to be affected by these things. And this will be on top of challenges that people face day to day. Drawing from my own personal experience, a number of difficult circumstances converged at once over the last few years, and this caused a heightened state of stress, worry, and fear. I was advised to make more time to rest, prioritise self-care, and to remove myself from certain environments. But most importantly was to ensure continued connection with trusted people. When we're struggling, we have a tendency to isolate ourselves, and this can cause more problems because it then means it's much harder for us to counteract negative thoughts that can distort our perceptions. Other people can help us to see the broader picture of what's going on. Other people can help us to feel heard and seen, and they can also help find a solution by offering a different perspective. Thanks to modern technology, we are the most connected we've ever been. It's fantastic, it's amazing. But virtual connection is no substitute for the real thing, something we all found during COVID. Meaningful in-person connection where someone really takes the time to properly listen is hugely transformative. And for my part, it was the biggest source of soothe in a really challenging time. Each of us have unique situations that require different approaches to gaining more soothe in our lives. The 3 systems model is a good place to start though. The first step is to become aware that you are spending too much time in the other systems and then stop. Stop and take care of yourself with activities that can reduce the sense of threat and the need to achieve things. Simple things, physical touch, in particular, proper hugs that are long-lasting, top tip. Doing an activity that you enjoy, being out in nature, spending time with people, all of these things can help. But it's also our sense of self-awareness that can be helpful in longer-term change. We were fortunate enough to be reviewed by Dr. Lisa Harrow, who works with the Compassionate Mind Foundation. And on self-awareness, she said, by understanding our own brains and bodies and those of others, we can work with them to activate the system that best serves us in the moment whilst maintaining systemic equilibrium. Our emotions are part of who we are. They're vital to our functioning and our survival. But the threat and drive systems can only sustain us for so long. We're not meant to always be striving, nor are we always meant to be on high alert. Rest and community are fundamental. By learning to understand how and why we feel a certain way, perhaps we can find a way of preserving the soothe in our lives. Then we might find it easier to maintain a sense of balance, to be resilient towards more challenges, and to feel safe and secure through support and connection with others. So the next time you feel stressed, go for a walk, find a friend, but most importantly, make sure you keep getting proper hugs. Thank you, everyone.